Hi everybody, this is Alan Ellman, the Blue Collar Investor. In Lesson 7 of the Beginner's Corner Information Series, we're going to discuss a very important topic, exit strategies, and how to monitor your stock and options positions in your covered call writing strategy. It's really amazing how many covered call writers don't use exit strategies. What they do is they simply enter their covered call positions and then wait for the end of the contract to see how things work out. In this video, you're going to see the tremendous amount of control you have when using this strategy and how you could maximize profits and minimize losses. There are three basic situations that will require the use of exit strategies. First, what if your stock price drops significantly prior to expiration Friday? Even though we've screened our stocks carefully, this still can happen. Bad news can come out, or the market as a whole can drop. We must be prepared. Second, what if the stock price moves up significantly prior to expiration Friday? Now, in this case, we'll maximize our initial profits, but there's actually a way that we can establish a second income stream in the same month with the same cash and simply by being prepared with this particular exit strategy, which I'm going to show you in a few moments. And finally, what if the stock price is higher than the strike price, or the price that we've agreed to sell our shares for, as expiration Friday approaches? And what if we want to keep that stock? We still like it. There are ways we can keep the stock and generate a second income stream in the upcoming month. And we'll also show you how to do that. Now, the first step in all exit strategy execution is to always buy back the option first. Remember back to Lesson 1 when we were describing the meaning of each word in covered call writing. Covered meant we first owned the stock before we sold the option. This will protect us from the risk of a declining stock. What if we sold the right to buy our shares for $30 and we didn't first own the stock? And what if the price of that stock went way up, let's say to $50? Well, now in order to meet our contract obligation, we're going to first have to buy the shares at market for $50 and then sell it at $30, taking a major hit. So we always must be in a covered position. So if we're going to start to unwind our position with an exit strategy, we must first always buy back the option. Let's talk about exit strategies prior to expiration Friday. And this covers the entire contract period except perhaps the very last few days of the contract cycle. The first strategy is called rolling down. And that's where we buy back the option and we sell a lower strike option in the same month. We're going to show you an example of that in just a moment. Here we use what I call the 20% 10% guidelines, which means we buy back the option when the price of the option is 20% of the initial sale in the first half of the contract cycle, or 10% or less of the initial sale in the second half of the contract. Let's say, for example, we sold the original option for $1. Well, we'd be willing to buy it back at 20 cents or less in the first half of the contract, or at 10 cents or less in the second half of the contract. The second exit strategy we'll talk about is planning to hit a double. Once again, we use our 20% 10% guidelines to show us when to buy back the option. In this case, we buy back the option and wait for the stock to go back in price and then sell the exact same option in the exact same month for the exact same stock, thereby generating a second income stream. The third exit strategy I call converting dead money to cash profits. We use this when we've just had it with the stock, the technicals are poor, the price is declining, and we really don't see any reason that that stock would bounce back. Maybe some bad news came out about that particular stock. In this case, we buy back the option, we sell the stock, and then we use the cash to enter a completely different covered call position in the same contract cycle. Taking no action I've included in this slide. Even though it's not specifically an exit strategy, I just wanted to remind you that's always a choice that we have. Maybe this price hasn't gone down that much, maybe the technicals don't look that bad, or maybe you just don't like any of the other choices that I've just given you. So taking no action is also always a possibility. And finally, the mid-contract unwind strategy we use when the price of the stock goes way up in a short period of time. In this case, we close our position and we start a new position, generating a completely new and second income stream in the same month with the same cash. And we'll give you an example of that again in just a moment. So first we talked about rolling down. And the chart pattern we would expect to see when rolling down is a declining or downtrending pattern, as you see here with the green arrow. Where you see the red circle, we bought 100 shares of HAS at $28.50 and sold the $30 call for $1.50, thereby generating more than a 5% initial 1-month return. Now, on the 11th, where you see the blue circle, we closed our short options position by buying it back at 15 cents, which does meet our 10% rule. And we sold the lowest strike $25 call. So initially we sold the 30, we bought it back and sold the $25 call. And we sold that for $2. Now that generated an additional profit of $185 per contract. As you could see on the right-hand part of the slide, the price of the stock closed at the end of the contract just below the $25 strike price. So we generated an additional $185 per contract by being prepared with the rolling down strategy. Next, let's talk about planning to hit a double. Now, hitting a double is when we buy back the option, we wait for the stock price to go up, and then we sell the same exact option in the same month. Now, if you can envision in your mind, that would be the classic V pattern. The price of the stock drops down, and then the price of the stock comes back up again. And you can see on this slide here, the left part of the slide, where we sold the first option all the way on the left, and then the price dropped and then came back up again. So let's walk through this. We bought the stock at $23.80 and sold the $25 call at $1.10, generating an initial profit of better than 4% for the 1 month. Then we bought back the $25 call at the bottom of the V at 20 cents, which does meet our 20% guideline. 20% of $1.10 is 22 cents, so it's 20% or less. Then the stock went back up again and we sold the same $25 call, this time at $1.70. So that generated an additional $150 per contract profit. If we own 5 contracts, that would be $750 simply by being prepared for exit strategy execution. On the right part of the screen, you could see that the stock price closes pretty close to where we bought the stock, just below $24 per share. Next, let's look at the mid-contract unwind strategy, and that's where the price of the stock goes up exponentially in a short period of time. And of course, you would expect to see a chart like the blue arrow shows, with the price of the stock going to the moon very quickly. So if we sold the $50 call and the price rises to $57 where it is on this chart, a typical cost to buy back that $50 call would be $7.10. If you remember back to the lesson on options basics, the premium consists of intrinsic value, the amount that the option is in the money, plus time value. Well, in this case, the intrinsic value for the $50 call would be $7. As the price of the stock goes higher and higher and moves higher away from the strike price, the time value gets lower and lower and approaches 0. That's why we gave it about a 10% time value to this option. So before we bought back the option, the value to us is simply $50 because that's what we've agreed to sell the stock for. But by buying back the option, now the value to us is $57, the current market value, because we no longer have the obligation. If it cost us $7.10 to buy back the option, it really only cost us 10 cents because we've also generated $10 of share value. So we close our contract at $10 cost to us, and we open a brand new position with a different stock and a different covered call option. And if we can generate more than $10 per contract, we've generated an additional income stream with the same cash in the same contract cycle. Once again, being prepared will put a lot of money in our pockets. Next, let's look at exit strategies on or near expiration Friday. The price of the stock is higher than the strike price, or the price that we've agreed to sell our options for, and we decided we still like the stock and we want to hold on to it. So we could do two possibilities here, rolling out or rolling out and up. Now when we roll out, we buy back the option and sell the next month's same strike option. For example, had we originally sold the January 50 call, we buy it back and then sell the February 50 call. That's called rolling out. Rolling out and up is when we buy back the option and sell the next month's higher strike option. For example, had we originally sold the January 50 call, we would buy it back and then sell the February 55 call. So let's take a look at the options chains for rolling out. On the upper left-hand part of the screen, you see the price of the stock is currently $38.88. And we've highlighted in both options chains the $38 in the money strike. On the left part of the screen, the July calls could be bought back for $1.05. Remember, we sell at the bid, the lower, and we buy at the ask, the higher. Now, oftentimes we could negotiate a better price, but for purposes of this presentation, we're going to use what you see on the screen. So the cost to buy back that option is $1.05 per share, or $105 per contract. On the right-hand part of the screen, the next month's August strikes are shown, and we go down to the 38 call, and we sell at the bid at $2.60. Now, you could see here the bid-ask spread is 35 cents. Most likely, we could get a better price than $2.60 by playing the bid-ask spread. But once again, we're going to use what you see on the screen here. So in this case, we're going to buy back and we're going to sell the option, the next month's option, for $2.60 per share, or $260 per contract. So let's look at the calculations for rolling out. We close at $1.05 and we sell to open the next month's 38 call at $2.60. Our profit is $2.60 minus $1.05 divided by the current value of the shares to us, which is the $38, which you've agreed to sell our shares for, our obligation. That's a 4.1% 1 month initial profit. That's called rolling out. Now in the next slide, I want to show you that oftentimes we could use multiple exit strategies with the same stock in the same month. And I'd like you to follow me by looking left to right. So at the top of the screen, we buy a stock at 29 and sell the 30 call. You can see here the classic V pattern, where the stock price drops and we buy back the 30 call, where you see the blue circle. And in this case, we decided to plan to hit a double, hoping the stock price goes back up again based on technicals and current market conditions. And in the green circle, we resold the same $30 call to hit a double. Now what happens after that is the stock price drops dramatically. And where you see the orange circle and the red arrow in the middle of the screen, we closed our position for the $30 call and we rolled way down to sell the $17.50 call. And finally, you see on the right hand part of the screen that the stock price closes just under the $17.50 call. So we sold our original option, generating a cash profit. We hit a double, generating a cash profit, and we rolled down, generating a cash profit. Now, we had a share loss, so we would have to add up our cash profit from the sale of the options and deduct the amount of share value we lost from the price of the stock dropping, and that will dictate whether we had a loss or a gain that particular month. But the point here is, by being prepared with exit strategies, we can either convert losses into gains or certainly dramatically mitigate or lessen losses. So to summarize, exit strategy execution is essential to maximize profits and mitigate losses. We use this if the stock price rises or falls significantly, or if the stock price is greater than the strike price at expiration Friday. The first step always is to buy back the option. We use the 20%, 10% guidelines for a declining stock. In Lesson 8, we're going to demonstrate the entire step-by-step process for mastering the covered call writing strategy. Take care, everybody.